What is up, fellow Eagle fans, and welcome to another season. The 2022-2023 NFL season is upon us, and the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Detroit Lions today in the Motor City to kick it off. And I am so excited for another NFL season, another season of Eagles football, and happy to bring you another season of the Fan. Right, this is season 9 of Season of the Fan. My goodness, how time flies! It seems like just yesterday I started this series in earnest, and already now we're up to 9 seasons. And a lot's happened in 9 seasons. We've had the highest of highs with a Super Bowl victory. We've had lowest of lows of non-playoff, non-competitive seasons. Last season was a very interesting year. Obviously, it was the first year for head coach Nick Sirianni. You had Jalen Hurts making his first full season as Eagles quarterback. You had other, players, other new players that came onto the team via free agency, trade, or draft. It was a kind of a mixed bag year. I mean, it started out with a win in Atlanta, and then it started taking a turn for the worst, right? It looked really bleak. I mean, the lowest of low points was that game at Las Vegas where the Eagles got smoked by the Raiders, and I believe at that time their record was 2-5, and it did not look good at all. We were all sitting here going, okay, well, let's just get the draft pick. That coupled with the picks that we had from other teams, we could be sitting on 3 very high potential draft picks, at least 2, in the draft. Well, obviously things turned around. The Eagles started winning some games. We started not worrying about our draft pick anymore, and just to keep winning. And they made it to the postseason. Now they got housed in Tampa Bay against the defending champs and Tom Brady and all in Tampa last year in the wild card round. And listen, the Eagles just weren't ready for that kind of game. They obviously did a lot of good to get to that game, to make the playoffs. You had a first-year head coach making a playoffs. You had, obviously, Jalen Hurts, in his first season as NFL quarterback, making it to the playoffs. Again, they did a lot of good to get there, and it was a learning experience. When you got there and you played a team like the Buccaneers, you had to play basically a perfect game, and the Eagles obviously didn't do that, and they lost and ended the season in Tampa. The Rams would go on to win the Super Bowl in their home stadium, SoFi Stadium, and the rest is history from last season, right? But there were lessons learned, and I think one of the things we took away was there's still a winning culture for this franchise, and obviously it ended ugly in Tampa. Listen, to a man or to a woman or whoever, we could say, yeah, you know what, we were hoping, but you kind of knew. You kind of knew that would be a very difficult thing to keep that winning going, in that type of situation against the defending champs in their building. So obviously the season ended with a thud in a dud in Tampa. But I am happy at least that they got in, because it gave playoff experience to Jalen Hurts. It gave playoff experience to some of the other young players making their first trip to the postseason. And it also gave playoff experience to Nick Sirianni. And listen, when you're in the playoffs, that level goes up. And you have to play at that next level. This team obviously wasn't ready to play at that next level last season, but I believe they could be this season. Now, listen, we know this offseason was a tremendous offseason by Howie Roseman and the powers that be. They really put it all together. A lot of the needs that this team had going into the offseason, they were able to address. Some of the mistakes that were made in the past via draft, they were able to address by moving on from some of those receivers like a J Jaw and a I keep wanting to say Aguilar. They're very similar, and Jalen Rager, of course. And I as I said in the last video I made for the non-season of the fan series, it was comical to me that both of them got traded to teams that the player that had the wide receiver that the Eagles should have drafted those years in DK Metcalf and Justin Jefferson. Obviously, the Seahawks already moved on from J-Jaw, and Rager obviously is still in Minnesota. So we'll see how it all plays out there for him. Obviously, they have a very talented duo already at wide receiver there in Minnesota, so we'll see. And we'll see them in week 2. But we'll get to that game next week. Right now, it's about the Detroit Lions. And like I said, the Eagles had a very nice, tremendous offseason. But you don't win a ring with the offseason, right? You do that with what you do during the year and obviously progressing in the playoffs. Now, listen, we were very spoiled back in 2017 because you had a semi-new head coach, quarterback tandem, right, with Peterson and Wentz, and you went from a non-playoff year to going to and winning a Super Bowl, even though Wentz got hurt and a lot of other players got hurt. It was one of those just lightning struck, and it was awesome that it did. We'll be forever thankful that it did right around here, but that wasn't the norm. Obviously, football, as most sports, is about progression. It's about making those progressions and getting better as you go. So typically what's going to happen is you go from a team that, like that team, didn't make the playoffs to hopefully making the postseason and having a little success, not saying Super Bowl, but it happened that way that year. Again, we'll always be thankful for it. But that's not the norm. The norm is, okay, you have a season like last season with a young head coach, a new head coach, new quarterback, young quarterback, and maybe either you don't make the playoffs or you sneak in the wild card as they did last year, and okay, maybe you don't win, but you take note of what happened and what you did right and wrong during that year, and okay, now it's about building to that team, as Howie did, and taking that next progression step. So the next progression step is winning a division title, having a home playoff game, hopefully winning that home playoff game, and then what happens after that happens, okay? Usually, okay, so you have the home playoff game, you win, and regardless what happens after that, at least you took that next progression step, which is, all right, a division title, taking it away from Dallas, which would be awesome, and getting a home playoff game with our fans, winning that game, and then taking that step, all right? So you took that next step. You went from, okay, just making the playoffs to sneaking in as a wild card, division winner. Maybe you play in the wild card game. Maybe you have a good enough record where you have a first-round bye, and you're in the divisional round. If you win that game, you go to the NFC title game. Or if you're a wild card, you win that game, and then you're in the division round, right? So we'll see. We'll see how this thing plays out, right? I believe that this team is talented enough to win a division title, to have multiple double-digit wins, I should say, on the season, whether it's 10, 11, 12, somewhere along those lines, hosting a playoff game, winning that home playoff game, and then let the chips fall where they may after that. I'm not going to sit here today and say Super Bowl, oh, here we go again. You know, it's going to be Eagles versus Buffalo in the Super Bowl. No, I can't say that, right? A lot has to happen, as we remember in 2017, as magical a year as that was. A lot had to happen, right, for us to, to do that kind of thing, right? So I'm not going to sit here today and say, okay, Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts are Super Bowl, this is a Super Bowl contender, because obviously there's a lot of unknowns with this team. A lot of players that kind of were put into this situation, either free agency, draft. So you're going to depend on some players here, or trade. You're going to depend on some players here who we have yet to see in an Eagles uniform, and hopefully it all goes well. I do believe that Howie had a tremendous offseason. As I said, the draft. I mean, the trade for A.J. Brown was a stroke of genius. You also take care of some needs on the defensive side of the ball by bringing in Davis and Nakobe Dean, two guys from Georgia who came off a national championship, and that defense was really one of the main reasons why that team won a national championship, and you got two of their best defensive players. I really like Davis. I think he has real potential to be one of the great defensive inside linemen in the game. I'm not going to throw Jerome Brown's name around with him just yet, but he has a lot of potential to be that kind of wrecker on the inside. Nakobe Dean, I think he certainly has potential to be a very good linebacker in this league. He's raw, and he was one of the leaders of that Georgia team last year. He made play after play, game after game, week after week. But now you got to do it on the NFL level, and we'll see. I do have high hopes for him too. It might take a little bit, for him to get adjusted to being an NFL linebacker. But boy, if he can, he really has talent. And one of the things I love that Howie did this offseason was address needs at linebacker. How many years have we gone through, even the Super Bowl year, where we're like, this defense, we love this defense, but boy, if we just had the linebacker play, right? Boy, they got it now. They have potentially a great pairing of linebackers. I love the addition of Kazir White, Hassan Reddick, obviously Temple Tough, right? And Nakobe Dean. Now you go that with some of the players that they already have. This is a very good core of linebackers and linebacker play that they can have. And finally, we have the potential, and I will use that word a lot here because it's only before week 1. It's all about potential right now, right? Potential to have playmaking linebackers again on this team for the first time in years. And listen, the Super Bowl year, they did have some nice linebackers play. I don't want to take away from the Bradhams and the players that they had in that position at that year. But listen, right? We remember the Axeman, Jeremiah Trotter. We remember Seth Joyner. We remember linebackers that were consistently, week after week after week, making play after play after play, tackles for losses, sacks, interceptions. They did it all, and we missed that for so long. It's been barren. For so long. Listen, they've had some okay linebackers, but not those playmakers, not those game changers. And right now, this team has the potential to have that type of linebacker core, and it's very exciting. Boy, it's very exciting. I've missed it. I missed it for so long. I'm seeing these other teams with these great linebackers and middle linebackers, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, man, I want that. I want that here because this town loves a great defense. And it's always been that way from the Kelly Greens to the Midnight Greens. We love a great defense and defensive playmakers and, guys that just, you're going to have week after week that are going to make those difference-making plays. And we haven't had that for so long at the linebacker position. And listen, kudos to Howie and the powers that be that finally, put it together this offseason. Again, potential to have tremendous linebacker play. The defensive line is going to be solid. I love the fact that Brandon Graham's back. Please stay healthy, BG. He was certainly missed last season. He's one of the leaders in the locker room, the voice on the field. Great to have him back. And again, this defensive line is going to be going to be nasty. They have a good rotation as well, and we remember back in 2017 the rotation that this defensive line had, and was very successful at that, right? And then the secondary, you go out and you get Bradbury. Obviously, who the Giants, for whatever reason, decide to let go. That's okay. You have him paired with Darius Big Play Slay. Should be a very good pairing at quarterbacks. I like Maddox as well as in the slot. They went out. They brought in a safety from via trade from the Saints. Very good young safety. They addressed the safety need. Which they had really not done. Now McLeod was good. I will give them credit for McLeod. He was a very good safety when he was on the field. He got hurt, from time to time, but he was a solid safety, for his years here. But they did address the safety position, and obviously we know what they did this offseason with the offense, wide receiver. A.J. Brown, a playmaking, big-time wide receiver. We haven't had a wide receiver like that in years. And I know that Alshon Jeffrey had a very good year when they won the Super Bowl back in 2017, including scoring a touchdown in the Super Bowl. But A.J. Brown is one of those difference makers, and he's young. So he's going to have many years here to grow, with this team. And obviously Devontae Smith set the Eagles' record, single-season receiving record in yards last season. A guy I really like. I was so high on when he came out of Alabama. I was hoping the Eagles would get him. I was so thrilled when they did get the Slim Reaper, and to the Giant fans' chagrin, is an Eagle. Him paired with A.J. Brown is going to be dynamite. I also really like the addition of Pascal in the slot because he could really be one of those, under-the-radar moves. And let's face it, right? During an offseason, it's not always the big glitz and glamour moves that make the difference. Sometimes it's those guys there under the radar that might, okay, we know the name, we've heard the name, decent player, but those are the type of players that can make the difference, as it was back in 2017, right? And I keep hating to go back to 2017, but you talk about the pinnacle of success, And that was that type of offseason that Howie had. And again, potentially this offseason, Howie, again, had a great offseason, not just with the big moves, but with the smaller moves, the moves that solidified different positions. And I think Pascal does that for the receiver position. I think that solidifies this receiver position. And here's a guy who is a professional at his position at wide receiver. Is he flashy? Is he an A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith? No. But he is a solid receiver who Nick Sirianni obviously knows from his days with the Colts, has a good rapport with him, and I think that the guy is going to have a solid year with the Eagles. I kind of look back at a receiver like a Jason Avant, a guy who just made plays. He wasn't flashy, he wasn't, making highlights every week, but he got open and he caught the ball. And that's the type of receiver I think Pascal has a potential to be. If I look back at the Eagles receivers from the past, right? Draw back from the history of the franchise. And then you look, obviously, at Dallas Goedert, another year into his career, and a potential Pro Bowl tight end that they have there. There are no excuses whatsoever for Jalen Hurts, right? You have weapons all over. You have wide receiver, you have tight end. This this team led the league in rushing a year ago, so you're going to have that. You have depth there at the running back position. And, of course, that offensive line, the big nasties in front. Just a monstrous offensive line, in my opinion, and I know I'm biased, the best in the league. And they will continue to improve and grow. You have guys like Mailata continue to improve and grow. Dickerson, obviously we know what we have in Lane Johnson and of course Jason Kelce, who can forget number 62. Just solid. They have Jason Kelce's replacement in Juergens for some years, hopefully some years from now. Hopefully Kelce keeps playing, but great offensive line. And I use that word potential, and I will continue to do that because this season, listen, it could be a tremendous year, but it depends on number one. It depends on Jalen Hurts. I'm one of those that I want to believe in Jalen Hurts. I really do. Obviously, he's a very rootable guy, a likable guy. No one's going to argue that. But we do have questions about, can he really put it together? Can he really put it together with his arm? Can he, read the defense the way a starting quarterback in this league has to be able to do, right? The greats do it, right? How many times do you see the greats do it? They check off from this play and that play. They know the blitz is coming from over here. They know this guy's that guy. They know defenses in this league. And Jalen Hurts, look, he's young. He still has to learn. Even this year, there are going to be mistakes. But you want to see that progression. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that this is an all or nothing year for Jalen. I'm not saying that, they have to go to a Super Bowl at least with Jalen. What I want to see out of Jalen this year is I want to see him make those progressive steps that you see those great quarterbacks do, those young great quarterbacks do in their career, right? And I want to see him do more with his arm. I want to see him be able to read defenses. I want to see him be more accurate, with those, not just the deep ball, but with those little intermediate crossing route passes, right? You want to see that accuracy. You want to see him grow as a quarterback. I want to see them win a division title, win a home playoff game. And if you can do that and he can get to the next round and maybe an NFC title game or something like that, and maybe loses a close, shootout type of game, all right, I'm ready to go on with Jalen Hurts. But if he doesn't quite take those next steps, listen, they have a lot of draft capital, a lot of ways to get another quarterback, next season. And I hate to say that because I like the guy. I really do. And I really want him to succeed, and I want him to succeed here. It would be tough to see him, leave here and go to another team and have success because the Eagles drafted him. It should have been here, kind of deal, right? And I know it happens with other quarterbacks and other situations, but I because the guy is so damn rootable, you want to see him have success, and you want to see him have success in Eagles green, right? And that's what I'm hoping for. Will it happen? Time will tell. I think he showed spurts of it last season. He really did. There were games that he looked incredible, with his arm and his feet as well. We started the season. He played a great game against Atlanta in Atlanta. There were other times in the season where he had big games and big performances, but it was very sporadic. And listen, he's a young quarterback. You couldn't expect him to come out and just be guns blazing every week. It's going to be the Jalen Hurts show, right? But this season, with the moves that they made, with the receivers that they have, with all the weapons they have around him, with that offensive line in front of him, there's no excuses for him not to have a Pro Bowl caliber season. And that's really all I'm asking for here. I'm not saying, oh, he has to be the league MVP. He has to lead the league in passing. He has to lead the league in touchdown passes. Right? No. I'm saying give me a Pro Bowl caliber season. Take that, because that's that next progressive step from what he was last season to this season. Okay, you had a taste. You had a full season under your belt, made the playoffs. I want to see that next step. I want to see that next progression. I want Jalen to give us a Pro Bowl caliber season. Okay, Pro Bowl caliber season, win a division title, win a home playoff game, at least take those next steps towards another Lombardi trophy in the cabinet. And I don't think that's asking for too much. I really don't. I look around the NFC. Yeah, you still have Brady and Rodgers. Jalen Hurts should be right up there. Should be right up there with the NFC quarterbacks as far as the pecking order. At the conclusion of this season, Jalen Hurts should be right up there as one of the top, 3 or 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the NFC. And again, a nod, a Pro Bowl nod, or very close to being a Pro Bowl nod. Maybe he gets in as an alternate, who knows. But I really expect that out of him, and I think he has the talent to do it. He's got to put it all together. Now, obviously, it's not just Jalen Hurts. Obviously, the defense and the steps that they need to take. Yes, there were a lot of really good moves made this offseason via draft, via trade, via free agency. They really went out and made a lot of moves and a lot of additions and a lot of good additions to this defense. But it's about taking that next step for the defensive coordinator, right? We need to see more out of him. Last season, it was very milquetoast last season. They had really good games, but against the upper echelon quarterbacks, they didn't. They didn't show up. I was at the game with Big Slim last season against Kansas City. Look, Pat Mahomes and Tyreek Hill, last year, we're going to do that to a lot of teams. But that was embarrassing, watching that. That defense on the field that day. On a day where the offense had a really, nice game. Now, some of those drives ended with field goals instead of touchdowns, and there were some touchdowns that got called back because of penalty. But still, the offense did their job that day. It was the defense that let us down. And we saw that at times last season, right? Both times against Brady, not showing up, not being able to make the stops. In Las Vegas against Carr, him having basically a career day versus the Eagles defense. We saw that. We saw that too much by some of the top-tier quarterbacks. Now, look, top-tier quarterbacks are going to do that against a lot of defenses, and sometimes there's just nothing you can do. Right? There's no shame sometimes. That's why they're where they are. That's why they're so good. But still, you want to see more. You want to see more out of this defense. You want to see more takeaways, more pressure on the opposing quarterbacks, whether they're a top-tier quarterback or not. Make them uncomfortable. And I think that this defense has the potential, and there's that word again, the potential to do so. But they have to do it. They have to show it, and they have to grow and build as the season progresses. I look forward to it. I do look forward to seeing this defense play. I look forward to seeing some of these players on this defense, whether it's Hassan Reddick, whether it's Kazir White, whether it's Bradbury and Slay, Davis, Cox, the big nasties up front, edge rushers like Brandon Graham, Sweat. There's a lot of potential for this defense to be a top-tier defense in this league, but they got to put it together. As I spit all over the place. They got to put it together and do the things necessary that you see those great defenses do as they become what they are to be, right? So this game in Detroit today, okay? 1 o'clock on Fox. Nervous energy right now. Nervous energy. Because you know what? You never know. It's the start of another season. Don't know exactly. We kind of know what we have, with talent-wise, but we got to see it, right? We got to see it on the field. And obviously they're doing it on the road, as they were last season in Atlanta in a win. But this season, obviously, listen, the expectations are a little higher. And again, they're on the road in Detroit. Now, Detroit, listen, that last season, we know Detroit was not a good team. The Eagles actually turned their season around on Halloween by blowing out Detroit in Detroit, right? And ironically, here we are again in Detroit. This time to start the season. I know there's been a lot of concern going into this game with the fact that the Eagles didn't the practice habits of them compared to what the Lions are doing. Oh, look at the Lions. I might remind people that the team that won the Super Bowl last season in the Rams, and yes, they had a lot of talent on that team, had to do similar off training camps as the Eagles did, and they won the Super Bowl. The Eagles, even with the training camp that they had last season, didn't get off to a great start, we know, but they finished strong. They made the playoffs. Off-season is off-season. Training camp is training camp. I think sometimes people put a little too much into training camp, a little too much into the preseason games. Oh, the starters aren't playing. Well, okay, the starters aren't playing. You're not going to show a lot in the preseason games. The preseason games are really there mainly for the younger players to get some experience on the field, right? Bubble players who are they going to make the teams or not, right? That's the preseason. The starters, and I know some teams play their starters. Whatever. There's potential to be injured before a season. We've already seen teams that are decimated with injuries because they play in the preseason or they whatever in the offseason. And injuries you can never avoid. It's a rough sport. Okay? You can have the most the most pillowish training camp. You can still have injuries rolling out of bed. A twisting an ankle, turning how many non-contact end of season injuries do we have in the league, right? Year after year. It's unavoidable. But the Eagles' philosophy is their philosophy. And that's how they're going to run their training camps. I don't think because the Lions are all about biting ankles and going for it and the coach doing up downs with the players that's going to make the big difference between winning and losing in the regular season when the lights are on, when you got to compete. Okay? The Lions had a preseason did what they did last season with their training camp and the ferocity they had in their training camp and what did they do in the regular season? So you see what I'm saying? It doesn't really matter. Now, the staunch people say, oh, you have to be tough. You have to do this and that. Listen, now is when it counts. And don't tell me the Eagles are going to come into this game and because they didn't practice the way the Lions did, that the Eagles are going to get rolled over in Detroit. The Eagles are a better team than the Lions. The Eagles, even regardless of what, Hard Knocks showed you with the Lions. And listen, I think the Lions are going to be a good team. I do. I think that this season they have potential to compete for that division. I really do. I think they are a good team. I think, they're one of those kind of under-the-radar teams that could be one of those surprise teams this season. They do have some nice players. They have a good coaching staff. I think Campbell surrounded himself with some good coaches, including our own Deuce Staley, right? And Honey Bun, Hank Fraley, right? So it was good to see some former Eagles in that Hard Knocks this year. But they're when you put them compared to the Eagles, talent for talent, the Eagles are better. They just are. And in this league, talent's going to win. Okay? Now, I'm not going to say, look, I'm just guaranteeing a victory right now. A lot has to happen. You can't just roll the ball out and hope you're going to win. You got to play your game. The Eagles' talent has to show up today. And if that happens, and I expect it will, the Eagles will walk away with a win, and it won't matter what the Lions did in their training camp, how ferocious they were in their training camp compared to what the Eagles may not have done in their training camp, or we only saw the starters for a touchdown series, versus the Jets in the first preseason game. Talent's going to win out. And, the Lions can thump their chests all they want, their coaches, and do as many up-down drills as they want with the team. On the field, talent's going to win. And right now, even though I do think the Lions are going to have a better season this year and, might compete against the Packers for a division title, seeing who the Packers lost this offseason, I think the Eagles, talent wise, will win out and will get the victory. Um, again, I'm not saying that to slight the Lions. I'm saying that because I've watched this game for so many years, and I know talent usually wins out in the end. And we do have to see what we have to see with Jalen Hurts. We do have to see what we have to see with this defense. But you look on both sides of the ball. You look at the players that the Eagles have compared to what the Lions have, and the Lions are still, listen. They have a lot of young guys. They're trying to build, trying to get to that level, right, of the AJ Browns of the world. The Eagles have AJ Brown. The Eagles have Brandon Graham. The Eagles have Jason Kelsey. The Eagles have Lane Johnson, right? They have those players that the Lions are trying to build those players to be. The Eagles are already there in a lot of aspects. I don't think it's gonna be a cakewalk. I really don't. I think the Lions. Listen, they were in a lot of games last year. They weren't in the game against the Eagles, but they were in a lot of games last season. They just had some tough luck, and you're gonna have that, at times. And I think it might be a closer game than some people might think it will be. But I think, like I said, at the end of the day, I think when we get to the second half of the game, particularly when we get to late third quarter into the fourth quarter, I think the Eagles are going to start running away with the game, and I think the Eagles win the game. I'm going to say by um, at least 10-13. I think it's a 10-13 point victory, and I think some of that comes late. I think it might be a competitive game for 3 quarters, maybe going into the fourth, but the talent of the Eagles, I think, will outdo what the Lions are trying to do. And I think the Eagles, between the two teams, I think the Eagles get more quarterback pressure on Jared Goff. And as we remember last season, Jared Goff was pretty much a pinata for the Eagles last season. It was not a pretty game for Jared Goff last season, and it was last season. I'm not going to say just because of what happened on Halloween last year that that's going to happen this year. No, but I still think if I look at the two teams and I look at the potential, and there's that word again that I said for the Eagles defense versus the Lions O line, which is a good O line, but still versus that O line versus what the Lions defensive front can do against the Eagles offensive line, and the fact that Jalen is certainly more mobile than Jared Goff. I think the Eagles have a much better chance of wrecking havoc on the Lions offense than the Lions defense is going to have against the Eagles offense. And I think that's part of the reason why I like the Eagles in this game. To win the game by double digits. Again, it's a closer game, I think, than people think, and we might be sweating it out for a bit, But I think at the end of the day, I think by the second half, late in the second half, third quarter, fourth quarter, I think the Eagles pull away, and I think they pull away for good. Would I love to see a wire-to-wire just dominating win? Absolutely. I don't think you're going to get that. You don't get a lot of that in week one. Every now and then you do, but a lot of times you still have teams kind of feeling out with the new guys and whatever, and it takes a little time to get that engine fully running. So I think you might see some slop today. You might see some moments of what's going on, but I think it's a feel out process, and I think but as the game goes on, I think the Eagles' talent will show up and show out and win out against the Detroit Lions. Again, who I think will be better this season. But the Eagles, I think, at this point, they're just a better football team. They just are. And I think that, again, the talent for talent, the Eagles' talent will win out, and they'll get the victory, and we'll be 1-0 going to the home opener next Monday night against Minnesota. That's my take on it anyhow, on the offseason and this game. I'm real excited. As we all know, I love Eagles football. I love the NFL. I love football in general. It's great to have it back. It really is. I think there's a lot of great storylines in this season all around the league, including some matchups that are going to happen in week one. Baker Mayfield playing against his former team, Russell Wilson playing against his former team. There's a lot of great storylines going into this year, and I think the Eagles are going to be one of those really good storylines as the season continues. I think they're really going to have a good year. And again, it depends on Jalen Hurts. It really does. He's got to take that next step. But if he can do that, I think we're in for a heck of a year. I really do. Because I think that they've really put together a heck of a team, a team that's going to compete for playoff success this season. Division title and playoff success. And as a fan, that's all I can hope for. Obviously Super Bowl, is that carrot. right? We had a taste. But we'll save that for the end of the season. We'll see how things go. So go Birds as always. Week 1 in Detroit. Let's get a road win and get the season off on the good note. But before we go away for this vid, in this episode 1 of season 9, we got the Festive 4 and Festive. No one puts in the work. Okay, no one puts in the work. Better look at that face. That's the face of a fox that just knows the NFL and knows how to read the NFL and knows how to pick the winners. And if you want to win some shekels, all right, Festive. You don't have to. All right. It's up to them if they want to listen. If you want to win some shekels, you better watch the Festive 4 week after week and put those shekels down on the Festive picks, because Festive can outpick the best. Festive's getting excited. All right, so here we go with week 1, the first Festive 4 of the season. A 4-pack of winners for shekels. Okay, for those of you who do, I don't bet. My betting is done on eBay. But if you bet in the NFL and you want some shekels, here's how you're going to do it. Festive in week 1 likes Baltimore over the Jets. Sorry, Slim, but Baltimore. Who I picked in the last fan standing. I'm just hoping to get out week 1 this year with the WIP last fan standing. Last year I was out in week 1. I'm just hoping to get past week 1 this year. So I like Baltimore. I picked them in the last fan standing, and Festive likes them too against the New York Jets, okay? Festive also likes Baker Mayfield to get revenge on Cleveland. Festive likes Carolina over Cleveland. The Baker Bowl. And Festive's going for Baker. Festive is also partial to orange and black teams. So Festive likes Cincinnati to beat Pittsburgh in their defense of the AFC title. And finally, Festive likes the Tennessee Titans over the New York Giants. So no love to the New York teams this week for Festive. And so Slim's family is all tightened up, of course, and Festive's tightened up today too, because Festive likes the Titans over the Giants. That's the Festive 4. Okay. And again, if you want, and I understand. I understand. It's all right, Festive. You don't have to get all emotional. Okay. All right. If you want to win some shekels, you better take full advantage of the free advice that Festive gives week after week. The Festive 4. Yeah. All right. Go Birds. All right. Festive's already going to crunch some numbers for next week. Oh, my goodness. It never stops. You can't contain. You can only hope. Anyhow, I will see you all again next week for week 2 of the NFL season. And enjoy the game today, everyone. Enjoy all the games. And let's get a victory in Detroit. Go Birds. I'll see you again next week. All right, everyone. Take care.